I really did think that it would be a good fit, and there wouldn't be a clash being in that management role.
Because he had experience, it was just like he should know what to do and sort of just let him go for it.
There's always that part of you that you're just desperate for the hire to work. You don't realise that you've got to still put in that hard work. And
hey, welcome to the Tradies Success Podcast. On this podcast, you're going to hear real life stories from trade business owners to minimise the mistakes you're going to make, maximise profit, create more time freedom, and minimise emotional overwhelm. So hit subscribe and follow us now and enjoy the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Tradies Success Podcast. Here today with Martin Lockhart from Alchemos Plumbing and Gas. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Man, I'm really impressed with your growth and your business story. And today what we're going to be talking about, guys, is a pretty challenging time that Martin went through with hiring the wrong ops manager. So, but what we're going to do before we jump into the lessons learnt, we're going to dive back into what got you started in the plumbing industry and starting your business and sort of sharing some lessons along the way.
Cool.
Martin, I'd love to jump into first, what got you into the plumbing industry in the first place, man?
Yeah, well, it was back in Scotland where I grew up, and I was looking for a trade. I was looking for any trade, to be honest. I kind of narrowed it down to carpenter or plumber, and I was calling people around asking for apprenticeships. And this specific business that I worked for had all different trades working for them. And they just said, Liam, our plumber needs an apprentice. And that was it. Decision made for me.
Is the plumbing different in Scotland than it is in Australia?
So I always describe it that the general principles are the same. It's just when you move to a different country, there's different legislations and different terminologies and things like that. So sometimes we do employ people recently from the UK, and that's the biggest thing they've got to get used to, just terminologies and legislations, regulations.
I'm sure it would be helpful having someone like yourself who's transitioned over to the Australian regulations, helping them understand the difference.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I've walked that path before, so it definitely helps them, I think.
Yeah. Did you work in any like super old buildings over in Scotland, like a castle?
Not so much a castle. But yeah, definitely old buildings, like lots of old lead pipes in the UK. But to be honest, a lot of it feels like a distant memory because it's been so long. I finished my apprenticeship and then I left to go travelling and backpacking, and that's what brought me to Australia.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've seen some videos of that old, the way they used to do the lead seals around the joins.
Yeah, yeah.
And they melt it down and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
Did you have to do any of that, or is it more removing the pipes and then putting new pipes in?
Yeah, a lot of it would have been repairs. So the lead would burst in winter. So I've got memories of doing that. But as I say, I was an apprentice, and it just feels like so long ago. I very much feel Australian trained, even though I'd done my apprenticeship in Scotland. I kind of had to learn it all again here in Australia.
Fair enough. So where did you start your plumbing business?
I started it around 11 years ago. I always knew that I wanted to have my own business. And I started my contractor's course, and I just I eventually had an opportunity to work with a builder as soon as I got my contractor's license. So I just took that opportunity to start.
That's awesome. Do you remember the reason why you started a business? What was the life you thought you were going to live having a business of your own?
Yeah, so it's quite funny. Whenever I think about it, I feel like I've always known that I was going to have a business. And I think sometimes that's even before thinking what it could create for myself. Growing up, my dad had his own business and he operated from home, and I used to hear him on the phone all the time giving customer service and things like that. And I think from a very young age, it just sort of implanted that seed that was what I was going to do as well.
That's cool. And when you started the business, what was your first year or two like? Do you remember Do you remember what challenges you faced in those first couple of years?
Yeah, so I'd say the first 3 years, it was. I always describe it as overwhelm. You're constantly doing jobs. You're doing the paperwork at night. You're like a slave to the business. You don't want to say no to work because you're trying to get yourself out there and pick up any job you can. And that was me probably for at least the first 6 years of business. I took on an apprentice after 3 years, and then after another three, that was when I made the decision that I really wanted to consciously try and grow rather than just kind of organically grow. Like consciously grow and systemize and create freedom for myself.
Do you remember that turning point at year 6 where you're like, nah, this is enough. I can't just keep doing it all by myself. I want to consciously grow. What was the things happening in your life at that stage that helped you make that decision, do you feel?
I can remember getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do paperwork before heading out to the job, or doing a materials list up early hours and then coming back at night. I've got memories of working in the office all night, and at that point, I started the business when you start a family. I think most people do, and you're just there's a separation there. The wife's sort of bringing up the kids, and you're working on the business, and so it was a lot of things. That's the main reason, really.
It's interesting. I talk to so many people that they don't actually start to scale until they have a kid. So once they have a kid, they're like, actually, I can't keep doing 16-hour days every day. I need to figure out a way where I can, be there with the kid. And, I think if people just had a little bit of foresight into, I'm going to have a kid one day, let's start scaling now, because it's a lot easier to scale when you don't have kids.
Yeah, definitely.
Than to try and scale when you got kids. But either way, I think it's definitely a good motivator to, start to create some time freedom again in your life.
Yeah, definitely. And me and my wife, we do love our holidays, and that's one of the reasons that we want to grow and create freedom as well. And I can remember at times being on holiday and having to answer calls and deal with certain situations and at work when you're away on holiday. And so that was another motivator for me.
Yeah, totally. It's the worst nightmare, having to work on holidays.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, cool. And then so year 6, you finally put on your first tradesman. What was that transition like for you? Like what do you remember of that first tradesperson, and what do you feel you did right, and what do you feel you could have done better?
Yeah, so I was very lucky with the first one. He was great, and it was like a pressure release at times. You realise that someone was out doing a job as good as you, and I read the notes at the end of the job, and he took payment and everything, and it was just like, wow, this is great. someone's doing my job for me. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think the challenges with the first tradespeople is you're now learning a whole new ball game of how to manage people, which is something that I'd never been used to at all. I'd never been in a real business environment before, because even before my business I was a subby, so I'd never been in that environment where I'd had to manage people before. So that's the whole new ball game opening up.
Yeah, totally. So just to give people context, like what is the size of your business now?
Yeah, so at the moment we've got 7 vans on the road. We have an office with an office manager, a full-time admin, scheduler, sorry. We have part-time accounts, and we have a BDM as well.
Awesome. And we're going to talk about, you did have an ops manager, and we went through that process of freeing you up from the operations responsibilities of invoicing, quoting, managing the team, and managing the clients. But that took a bit of a sour turn, which we'll come back to in a little bit. Before we do, I'd want to explore what you've learnt from managing people over the last 5 years. Like, what are some of the big things that you've realized about management, and how do you get the most out of your team?
Yeah, well, it's definitely something I'm still working on. I think I've still
Me
got,
too.
yeah, I think I've got a lot to go in that regard. I think I'm possibly not good at praising them enough when they do something well. I think touching base with them a little bit more and checking in with them is something that I'm trying to work on at the moment. It's so easy to, because you've got so much on your mind, and there's so many things that you're trying to get through, that it's so easy not to check in with your employees and see how they're going and see how you can help them. So
Yeah.
so that's a big thing that I probably still need to work on a lot more. I'm conscious of it, but I definitely need to work on it more.
I feel it's nearly impossible to do what you're saying when you're busy. Like, whereas as business owners, busy business owners, we've got so much on our minds all the time. And I think we're a certain type of personality too, right? Like, we're driven, we can do a lot of things at once. We can, push, push, push. But when it comes to, having a conversation when you're busy, it's a hard thing to do. But what I've learned is, by creating freedom, by replacing yourself in these roles so that the team gets the job done, you have the space to connect until you don't again, because the business keeps growing and then you don't have time again. And it's just a matter of managing that capacity to always free up your time so you can connect. But in those busy times, yeah, it's so tough. So tough.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Moving on from there, what did your growth of your, over the 5 years, like what was some of the things that you went through, some of the challenges, and what have you learnt in terms of growing a team?
Yeah, so I always remember one of my biggest challenges was we had grown the team to 3 plumbers, 3 vehicles. At the time, we were hiring because we were so busy, and all 3 of them plumbers left within 6 weeks. And
Oh, man.
it was just, that was like the first real growth phase that I was experiencing, and they all left for pretty different reasons. And yeah, it was just, we had to hire. We were hiring, so I replaced the 3 plumbers first, and then I managed to get another two people wanted the job at the same time. So I just said, yeah, let's grab them both. So we went from 3 to 5 vehicles pretty quickly. And then we
Yeah.
maintained that for a while. And when I look back now, it was pretty chaotic, just absolute chaos. But we managed to get through it, and if another guy left, we brought another one in. But we maintained at that size for a couple of years, and really sort of leveled out and systemised a bit more and things like that. So that was a big challenge. I always talk about that one as probably my main challenge, because again, that was the first time I'd experienced anyone leaving me. I'd only just hired until then. No one had resigned, so that was a whole new experience as well.
It's interesting because I remember as well, just being a business owner, like growing the first team and just dreaming that, I just want to keep people forever. But I think it's not like that anymore. Like, churn is a part of business, and you've got to almost be prepared that someone's going to leave at any time. Um, have yourself a bit of a backup plan and a list of people you can call to see if they're ready to join your company for those moments. Because, it's interesting how quick something can happen, like an injured staff member, someone just resigns out of the blue, someone does something like unforgivable, when you think everything's going good. Like, the amount of things that have resulted in this shock ending to employment. It's one of those things that we've got to be able to navigate the best we can as business owners, hey?
Yeah, definitely. And I think different people's life circumstances change all the time as well, which is a little bit, you can't control that. And they might they might leave for a certain reason. So I think it's a good idea about having a backup for just about every position, really.
Yeah, totally. Cool. All right. And then you got to that stage, and now we're sort of at that point where, you put on some management roles and your business is running fine, but I'd imagine you would have been at capacity. I think I remember talking to you, came out to a strategy day in Byron, and we talked about getting this ops manager on. How did that process go? Like how did you go find that person? What made you think it was the right fit? And what have you learnt since?
Yeah, so we put the ad out to seek, and there wasn't many candidates out there. There was the guy that we did hire had a bit of experience in a management role for a plumbing business. So we went through the interview process with him. At the time, I really did think that he would be a good fit. I thought that he was quite similar to me in a way, and that would maybe work, and there wouldn't be a clash of personalities just being in that management role. Obviously, I'd need to work with him well, but yeah, it didn't work out. We after a few months, I realised that he wasn't a right fit for the job. In hindsight, I made lots of mistakes with it. Just hiring that first management role, I know the mistakes I made. I should have onboarded him a lot better, gave him a bedding in period to learn how we do things in our business. Because what he then implemented things a bit too early, and it just didn't work well. At the time, we were going through a bit of a changeover in plumbers as well, so a bit of timing didn't help with that. We were pretty low on staff as well, so there was a lot of challenges all happening at once.
So do you feel without that proper onboarding and proper structure in terms of the role and what you needed, because it's almost like as a business owner, you need to architect this role, right? The ops management role. This is exactly who I want to be, and this is how I want you to perform in this role for us to be consistent with our service delivery, who we are as a business and all those sorts of things. And by you architecting that, then you can sort of get them to transition over. And I see a lot of mistakes, and the mistakes I've made as well is hiring someone and just pushing them in there and hoping for the best. It's sort of like when you hire an electrician and you're like, oh, you got your license, go and do the work, right? And we haven't actually onboarded them. This is how we do it here. I know you've had your experience in the past, but this is the way we do it here. This is how I expect you to do it. This is how fast I want you to do it. This is how you speak to the customer, all of that, like the almost the recipe for success in the role. And do you feel like when you hired him, because he had experience, it was just like he should know what to do and sort of just let him go for it?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's always that part of you that you're just desperate for the hire to work well as well, and you think that they're going to be the savior and they're going to relieve you of all these jobs and make your life easier, but you don't realize that you've got to still put in that hard work and onboard them first.
I did the exact same thing in a different way. I promoted one of my electricians to ops manager, and I was like, thank God I've got an ops manager now. I'm going to go do triathlon. so I was like, I'm just going to do an Ironman. And so I just went off and did training, and I didn't onboard him. I just assumed that he would know what to do. I did a little bit of onboarding at the start. I was like, yeah, you got it? Sweet. All right, I'll leave you to it. But they made so many mistakes. There was lots of problems happening slowly in the background that I wasn't aware of because I was distracted. And I felt I just needed a break too. I was fucked. Like, I was just like, I just need to get out. I just need to stop working so much. And so I signed up to doing an Ironman, half Ironman, and started training with the Blackfins. And that was my life for like a good 6 to 9 months, I think. And when I came back I was like, triathlon's done. I sat down. I was like, all right, where are we at? It's like, holy shit, fuck, look at all the stuff that's gone wrong. So yeah, it's one of those things that That's one of the biggest mistakes I made, but luckily survived. That was one of the things that led me to nearly go out of business. That distraction and just wanting to have some time back, and I was just crushed for so many years, So I feel you, man. I know what it's like. You just like get in there and just save me. Like I need some time back.
That's it. And as I said, he did come with a skill set from a previous business that we've probably learned a little bit from, but his big focus was working on everything that he knew. And even though I did have a lot of what I wanted from him, I feel like that wasn't his focus, and his focus was doing what he knew well. So that's where the breakdown came. But I think when I hire again, I'll definitely just make sure that nothing changes in the first few months, that they really bed into how we do things, and if they've got a skill set which you'd hope they have, that they can bring and bring extra benefits to the business, then we can slowly implement it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask, which is what would you do differently next time? And having that set role, those exactly how I want you to do it. And just for like you said, just for the next 3 to 6 months, just do it our way. And then once you really understand it our way, bring your experience and let's adapt it and let's change it and let's make it more robust. And now you've learned our system and you really understand it. What can you bring from your experience to really improve it? I think that's a really sensible way to go about, the rolling over from management. From the other thing is from you to them as well. The dynamic shift is such a major role to get right, because all of a sudden, all of your tradespeople you got are not reporting to you. They're reporting to this other person. And so if you don't have it right and you're not there to still support and hand over slowly and gently to make that dynamic shift as smooth as possible, I think that can end in a pretty toxic situation.
Yeah, so that was another fact that added to the whole stressful situation. We, at the time of hiring the ops manager, I had a leading plumber who thought he was the right guy for the role, even though he didn't actually apply for it. But he thought he was in line for it, so he left just before the ops manager started. And we also lost a few plumbers around that period. So it all added to a very stressful period of just lots of change.
Change in management can be really difficult, and I think sometimes it does come with churn. It comes with like having to slowly, the team will slowly leave and new people come in, and that's just the way it always was for them that are new. So, but the better you can do that transition, the smoother we can make it, the better. But yes, it's definitely a difficult time, and it's a challenging one. And I'm glad you learned a heap from it.
At the time, it hit me pretty hard. As I said, it was pretty stressful. But looking back now, same with other hard times, you realise it's a lesson, and you learn from it. And what we're trying to implement now is sharing a lot of responsibilities between the plumbers. So we've got one guy, for example, is responsible for the gas certificates. Another one's now doing the onboarding for new people that come in. So they run with him at the start. Another guy is doing our on-site quotes, and another one is coming into the office early every morning and just helping the schedulers with things, maybe materials orders and things like that. So I'm really trying to share them responsibilities out. So when it's not just relying on one person, and then when the ops manager comes in again, he's maybe not feeling overwhelmed with too much to do, too much to learn, and really spreading it out between the team, and also giving them extra responsibilities for their careers as well.
Totally. And it's de-risking, right? Like that's called key man risk. And if you got an ops manager who's responsible for a big chunk of responsibility, if they leave, then who gets sucked straight back into that overwhelming situation.
It's me again.
Yeah, yeah. So I love it. And that's led this challenge. And this is so cool. Like this challenge that you've had, and as hard as it was in the moment, gave you the awareness to be like, fuck that. I'm not doing that again. Let's de-risk. Let's share the responsibility out. Because at the end of the day, the ops management role is a leadership role. So you don't want them to be too overwhelmed in the doing, like the doing of tasks. They need to be managing people of the doing. So yeah, the better you can get at having that person not too overwhelmed and not too stressed, the better. And we've done something similar with our structure now at Response as well, where we've got our team supervisors. So we've got teams of 5, and each of those has a supervisor, and the supervisor reports to the ops manager. But the supervisor is responsible for making sure those 5 people have done their quotes, done their invoices, their schedule's looking good. Because when we had an ops manager managing 20 vans, it was just like, it was fucked for the ops manager. It was just too much. The amount of phone calls he was getting from 20 people in a day. So yeah, the teams now will report to their supervisor for any of the problems. And if the supervisor doesn't know the answer, then the ops manager gets a call. So yeah, that's been working really well for us.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah. I think any management role, they can't be too bogged down in tasks, because they need that time to manage as well. There's things that pop up every day in management that they need to allow time for, and we've recently just learned that, and we're trying to change that with our office manager as well. I think she was too bogged down in tasks, so when day-to-day stuff came up that she had to manage, she wasn't getting her tasks done. So that's another thing we're looking at.
It's interesting, hey, like this is what we teach, especially like expansion and scale groups. Like now you're not just responsible for your own capacity, you're responsible for your team's capacity too. So like when we're overseeing the team in the right way, you're looking at your tradesperson's capacity, and are they at capacity? Because if they are, time to hire, like split the load and create capacity to grow into. But the same goes for your admin. So like admin at some point, when you keep putting tradespeople on, is going to hit capacity, because all of their tasks will pile up, and you got to split that responsibility into 2 admin, or an office manager and admin, or a VA, or whatever it is. But the same goes with ops management. So like the bigger you get, are you going to do supervisors? Are you going to split the ops role into 2 ops roles, like someone does scheduling and quoting and estimating, and the other person's team management and invoicing and end of job stuff? Like whatever the arrangement is, it's just our responsibility as the general manager of the business to manage capacity. That's the big thing. And the better you get at it, the better your team will run.
Yeah, and trying to identify it as early as you can before people burn out.
Yeah. Do you know it's a really good tool? And not many people have been using it because it's fairly new. But if you're a member of the academy, go and type in the search the time calculator. So we've got a spreadsheet that actually helps you understand the load of each staff member, and it graphs it out. It's got graphs that gives you super clarity in terms of managing capacity. So yeah, I think that time calculator it's a big one, but people don't see the importance of it. I'm going to keep drilling it into people.
Yeah, that's it. And you get back to the start of the journey. You start off as a plumber, and now you're trying to make an office function as best as you can. It's just a whole new skill set that you're having to learn. And that's what I love about the journey, to be honest. It's learning all that new stuff as you go. That's what kind of motivates me, them new challenges.
I'd say that I've been talking more and more, like reading more Stoicism lately, and just really trying to ground myself in Stoicism, so that when I teach the academy members who are, there's a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm, and a lot of problems. But when we look at a problem like an obstacle, like Obstacle is a Way by Ryan Holiday is an excellent book. But, the obstacle is the way. Like it's like that obstacle that you're facing, if you think of like you're doing Tough Mudder, you've got to do the obstacle. You've got to get through it. It's challenging, but get through it, and then you're moving forward and you're getting to the end of the race. And so each obstacle we face in business if we could look at it like a problem and this is fucked and why is this happening to me? Or this is an opportunity for me to grow, learn, and improve our system so that this doesn't happen again in the future. And usually in retrospect, when we're looking back and reflecting in the past, it's those most challenging moments in our business that give us the most growth, personal growth and professional growth.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It's almost like, why don't we just live in that moment? Like, just absolutely challenged every week.
Yeah, that's it.
No.
Absolute emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's very true, and probably the two biggest challenges I've spoke about today is when I lost my first 3 plumbers within 6 weeks, and hiring an ops manager that didn't work out. They're probably, looking back in them little periods, they were definitely two of the toughest. But the growth you get from it, and the resilience and the confidence it gives you at the end is really, it's great.
What would you say to someone that might be facing, a real tough time in their business right now? I see a lot of people that, I get messages all the time where people are thinking of retracting, downsizing, there's overwhelmed, there's so much workload. What would from your experience, like, would you say to someone that might be going through that period in their business?
Yeah, when it happens to myself, I always try and remind myself why I'm doing it and what I'm trying to create, and the benefits that it gives me. So it might be very stressful, but I've got freedom. I can take the kids to the school drop whenever I want. I can train. I do my CrossFit training at 9 o'clock. I've got these freedoms to do that. We can go on our holidays whenever we want. So I always try and remind myself why I'm doing it, and that sort of motivates me still. You know that it's going to be a short spell, and you're always going to come out the other side of it. And sometimes it's just about getting the head down, getting through it, and just trying to remind yourself that you will grow from it as well.
Yeah, what are the lessons I'm going to learn from this? So what,
Yeah,
see it as a positive thing. Shit, this is happening, but this is an opportunity to grow and change things, and fresh blood, and
yeah, that's it.
So you've just gone on holiday, so I'd love to talk about that because I heard you went over and saw the Olympics.
I did, yeah. I went over for my 40th.
Awesome. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, so the day of my 40th was the men's 100-meter final.
Oh, man, what a race.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I absolutely loved it. I love all sports, and I've always loved the Olympics. And it's always on. If the Olympics is on, then it's always around my birthday. So I had it earmarked for a while that for my 40th, that's what I would do. So we started collecting tickets for certain events leading up to it. And the opportunity came to get the tickets for the men's 100-meter final. So we got that, and that was an amazing experience.
What was it like to be in a stadium for that race?
Yeah, the build up was intense. Like the stadium, they done it so well, and at the time, it's over. It's over within seconds. But to the naked eye, it was just incredible. After watching it, it could have been any winner. To the naked eye, you just had no idea who'd won. I think the first 7 popped up on the screen went to a photo finish.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So as soon as it was over, we looked at the screen. First 7 were photo finish. So you had absolutely no chance of picking a winner.
Yeah.
Real bucket list.
What was the other event you went to?
We had 3 athletics events, including that one. We went to swimming, tennis, water polo, weightlifting. We've seen a little bit of 3v3 basketball as well.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. And then you extended your trip for your birthday, I saw on Instagram. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So we went to Ibiza for a few days afterwards as well.
Did you go hard?
That was great, yeah. Couple of nights. But I am 40 now, so it was night on, night off.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was great, and we were lucky enough that it was my dad actually flew from Scotland to come and look after our kids here in Australia.
Unreal.
Yeah, whilst we went on a child-free holiday for 2 weeks.
Oh my God. How cool is that? Kids would have loved being with their grandparents as well.
Yeah, they did. They loved it. Yeah. I let the office know that I was turning all my notifications off, and I didn't hear anything to do with the business for 2 weeks, which is great.
That's the dream, man. That's why a lot of people just want to be able to go on holiday and be able to turn their phone off, not have to stress, not have to worry, and that's what operational time freedom is. It's like the business will run whether you're there or not. So tell us about that. When you got back, everything's still good. Everyone's chipping along.
Yeah, I got back and everything was good. We had the office manager doing invoicing, but she struggled to keep up with that, as well as everything else that she had to do. So I had a little bit of that to catch up on. But just before that, I'd set some of the plumbers up with their extra responsibilities. So that worked really well.
And do you feel like having the holiday coming was like the driver to like hand the responsibility out so that when you went, it was all sweet?
Every time we go on holiday, it's a motivation for me to go, right, I need to put this in place, work on this, systemize this, and it pushes me every time. So yeah, it's another reminder to go on more holidays.
Absolutely. Hear that, guys? So all the listeners, we want to make sure you book your holiday and get to work.
Yeah, it's a little bit like we discussed in the class yesterday about setting the goals and putting timeframes on them that push you.
Yeah.
You know you're going on holiday in a month, and you need to systemize certain things so it works well when you go away, and yeah, it pushes you quicker for sure.
I love holidays for like the competition for your freedom. So it's like, I always like to look at business like sport, right? So when you sign up to a competition in sport, suddenly start training. You're like, I wasn't training like that before, but now I've got a reason to train because the competition's coming up and I want to do well. So when you book a holiday within the business, and if you've got the intention, I think the big mistake people make is they'll book a holiday and they don't try to systemize it in a way where it can run without them. And even just trying to get it to run without you, even if it's just you and a tradesperson, you could try and get the tradesperson to do stuff, systemize some things, make it as easy as possible. It's going to be a lot better than just going and hoping for the best without any intention. So that's what I'm excited about. Next week, we're going to be, setting a holiday goal and reverse engineering that. So that's going to be cool.
Yeah, awesome. And it's always good to come back and say, okay, you can analyze where the gaps are. What did fall by the wayside, and what do I need to work on next so it doesn't happen again? Who needs help a little bit in certain situations and things like that? Pushes you on.
I always found coming back from holidays, the team was better. It's like, oh, I need to go on more holidays. The team gets better when I go away. So, it's like they lift up, right? The team's got more responsibility. Everyone lifts. They do more, and while they might make mistakes, like you said, or not do things quite the right way, it identifies opportunities to improve that, create systems, and make it better for next time.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool, bro. No, it's been awesome chatting. I'm glad you've got through that tough time. I'm glad you had a great time for your 40th. Really excited for you for us to be working on getting that ops manager on and the right person. And yeah, man, I'm proud of what you've done, and keep up the good work.
Great. Thanks very much.
See you soon, man.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey guys, it's Greg here. Thanks for listening to the podcast. For me, growing my trade business was extremely hard. It cost me millions of dollars, so much time trying to figure out what was the right way to do business, and emotionally feeling like I'm letting myself, my partner, and my family down by not knowing how to run my business properly. But I kept working hard and overcame those challenges and created systems and solutions that minimized those mistakes for myself and my team as we grew. Now, Response Electricians, go and Google it. We've got over 1,700 reviews on Google. We've won awards like Electrician of the Year and Service Business of the Year, both state and nationally. I sat on the National Board of Directors for Master Electricians Australia for 2 years, created a real solid awareness of the industry and the construction industry and the challenges you face. And the business runs autonomously over in Perth while I live my life working on the academy in Byron Bay. And I help people like you create freedom from your business as well. Now, having coached and trained thousands of trade business owners, we've developed the Freedom Fighters program. It's a guided pathway in a hybrid training and coaching system that provides you with the right information and steps to take to create freedom, not in years, but now. You can actually create more freedom from your business sooner than you think. So click the link and have a free strategy session with one of our academy experts to fully understand how you can create more time freedom from your trade business, generating more profit, better culture, and more growth in less time.